Now, as Ontario continues to report high daily case numbers, it is consistently falling short on its daily testing rates. This prompting concerns that we may not have a true picture of the spread of COVID-19. For more on this, we're joined by Dion Allman, an expert in pandemic modeling and a professor at U of T. Dion, thank you so much for joining us on this incredibly important issue.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So let's look at the bigger picture and the testing where we are. We fall short of the testing promise, if you will, of around 50,000. What can we glean from that, and how damaging is that in the overall picture?
Well, it's hard to say what we can really glean from it because there's never really been any clear information about why testing has not reached the desired levels that the province wants, all the way back from essentially day one of COVID here. But what it means for us is that we are unable to get as full a picture as we should have in order to understand how COVID is spreading through our province, through our cities, and how best to stop it.
But given that and the talk of restrictions, if we don't have a clear sense and a clear picture of what war we're fighting, are we doing too much or are we doing too little?
Well, I think that the fact that we've exceeded our peak number of cases, even going back to the summer, shows that we are doing too little. And not having enough testing, not having enough manpower or budget to do the amount of contact tracing that's necessary means that we can't figure out exactly how COVID is spreading. So we can't make surgical targeted interventions in our economic environments, in our businesses, and figure out what needs to be restricted or shut down. We're really only left at this time with blunt tools like rollbacks to phase 2, and probably if things don't get under control, in another few weeks, we might be talking about rollbacks to phase 1 or phase 0.
When we're talking about testing, you say we don't have a real sense of why they are falling short. Do you think it is a matter of lack of personnel? Is it a matter of equipment? And where should we be testing right now?
In truth, I don't know. As I've said, there's never been a lot of forthcoming information about why testing is not at the desired capacity. My understanding is that a lot of it just has to do with the labs. There's just not enough physical equipment, physical reagents that are needed to perform the tests, and it's difficult to procure those things now because there is a global demand and shortage of those products. In
terms of trying to assess where we are in the province, we hear the overall numbers, but we don't hear where they are by region. Would that perhaps give a better picture of where we are and how each region is faring in this? In other words, I mean, it's similar to a political poll. You have a sense of representation of these areas to get at least a more of an accurate depiction. Yes, the region by region breakdown is not always as detailed coming to the public, but I am absolutely confident that our public health units, Public Health Ontario, our provincial leadership knows exactly what is happening region by region in as much detail as is available given the limited testing and contact tracing. And with that information, it certainly makes sense to have different restrictions and different rollbacks put in place in different areas, depending on how badly they are currently being hit by COVID. So where do we go from here in terms of the number that we should reach? What would you like to see in terms of a testing goal? In terms of a testing goal, more is better. You really can't have too much, especially with what we know about COVID and the high percentage of people who are fully asymptomatic from beginning to end of their infection, or who have such mild symptoms that their COVID infection could be easily written off as just a cold or a mild case of the allergies. If we don't have just massive testing capacity and an effort to do broad-based population testing, we're really not going to capture those people who are positive and just don't even know that they should be tested, let alone the people who are have symptoms, who are pretty sure they have COVID, but just can't get in to get tested because maybe it's difficult to make an appointment, or there's certainly a lot of miscommunication between the provinces and the testing centers and the actual people about who's eligible to be tested and where at any one point in time. And that causes us to potentially miss a lot of infections. So the curves that we see now are an underestimate of how many people are actually infected. That paints an important picture, and we appreciate your insight on this incredibly important topic. Dion Allman, an expert in pandemic modeling, professor at University of Toronto. Thank you again. Thank you.